Alright, so let's look at a slightly more graphical representation, because what you're doing in this case in balancing an equation is you're just showing how many atoms are needed on each side of the equation to actually create the products. And I'll show you what I mean by that as we go through this more graphical way of looking at it. So in this reaction, we've got sodium, Na, reacting with a nitrogen molecule, N2. So these would actually be connected by a triple bond. So in the product side, we've actually got a new compound here, which is actually going to be a ionic compound. So in theory, the nitrogen here would be N3 minus, and the sodiums would all have a 1 plus charge. Don't worry too much about that though, because we're focusing on balancing the equation right now. Okay, so just by looking at the number of atoms on each side here visually, you can see that there's more sodiums on the product side than there is on the reactant side. Similarly with the nitrogens, there's different numbers on each side. So you can see without even doing our table that there are different numbers of atoms on each side of the equation, therefore the equation is unbalanced. So we can kind of skip step one. If you wanted to do step one anyway, you could. But let's just move on to step two, which is altering coefficients to try and actually balance this. So the first thing we've identified is that more sodium atoms are needed on this reactant side, because we've only got one here and there's 3 on this side here. So let's try and rectify that by putting a 3 in front of our sodium. So you can see by doing that, we've now got 3 individual sodium atoms instead of 1. So we've got 3 of those now. So we can see that the sodiums are balanced. We've got 3 sodiums here and 3 sodiums on the product side as well. So now let's turn our attention to the nitrogen. Which side needs more nitrogen? We've got 2 on the reactant side and 1 on the product side. So we need to increase the number of nitrogens on the product side. So how do we do that? We're going to need to put a 2 in front of that Na3N molecule. But in doing so, not only do we increase the number of nitrogens, we also increase the numbers of sodiums. So now we've got 2 nitrogens on the product side, also 2 nitrogens on the reactant side, so that's all good. But now let's look at how that affected the sodium. Now that we've got 2 lots of NaO3, we've actually got 2 times 3 lots of sodium. So that's 6, and you can count that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So each of these molecules has 3 sodiums. So now our 3 sodiums on the reactant side aren't enough. How could we increase the number of sodiums on the reactant side? We need to change the coefficient. So if there's 6 sodiums on the product side, how many sodiums do we need on the reactant side? We need 6 on that side as well. So by changing the coefficient to 6, we've now got the 6 sodium atoms, which are needed to react with the 2 nitrogen atoms to create our Na3N compound. And we've got 2 of those, so you can see that each nitrogen is going to attach to 3 of the sodiums to create the Na3N compound. So visually now we can see that there are 6 sodiums on the reactant side, 6 sodiums on the product side, and 2 nitrogens on each side as well. So in theory we could do step 3, which is to do the table and count them in that way, but we can see it visually here. So it's just another way of doing it. So hopefully by showing you those 2 different ways of balancing chemical equations, you've started to get your head around how to do this. So now that we've been through those couple of examples, I'm going to throw it over to you guys to put this into practice. So this is one of those sort of things that you can really only learn by doing. So the more you practice this, the better you'll get at it. And it really is just about trial and error sometimes, and understanding what the different numbers in the chemical equation actually mean. So this will put into practice what we learnt in the first part of the session as well. So this question is asking you, is the chemical reaction below balanced? So you can do this by filling out one of these tables. So there's actually, so we'll do this one first. So pause the recording now and have a go at trying to work out whether the equation here is balanced or not. Okay, so for this question, we're only really doing step one of our balancing. So it's not actually telling you to balance it if it's not balanced. So it's just assessing whether the equation is balanced or not. So the first thing to do is to list each reactant atom type. So we've got aluminium, Al, Fe for iron, and oxygen. So on the product side, we also have aluminium, Fe, and also our oxygen there. So the next thing to do is just to count the number of atoms on each side. So for aluminium, we've got 2 lots of 1Al, so 2 times 1 gives us 2. For Fe, 2O3, that means there's 2 Fe atoms, as there's a 2 after the Fe, and 3 oxygen atoms within that molecule, because there's a 3 after the oxygen there. For the product side, let's look at the aluminium first. So the 2 after the Al, what does that tell us about how many aluminiums there are? So there's 2 aluminium atoms in that molecule. The 2 in front of the Fe tells us that we've got 2 lots of 1Fe. So there's a 2 there as well. And the 3 after the oxygen tells us that we've got 3 oxygens. So is the equation balanced or not? Yes, it is. So why is the equation balanced? Essentially, it's because we've got the same number of aluminium, iron, and oxygen atoms on the reactant and the product side. Alright, so a little bit trickier now. So not only do you now need to work out whether it's balanced or not, but then if it is unbalanced, you need to try and balance the chemical equation here. So we can skip step 1 by me telling you that the equation is unbalanced. So try and balance this chemical equation by changing one or more of the coefficients. Keep in mind the first time you try changing the coefficients, it may not actually work, so you might have to try it again. So you can start by trying to balance either the hydrogen or the oxygen atoms. It's up to you, but try and start changing some of the coefficients for one or more of these molecules to see whether you can get it to balance. So please pause the video recording now and have a go at this exercise. Okay, so I'm going to start with the oxygen. So we have 1 oxygen on this side and 2 oxygens on the reactant side. So it's logical that I would try and put a 2 in front of the water molecule here, because that's the only way I can get more oxygen atoms on the product side to match the oxygens on the reactant side here. So by doing that, I've actually increased the number of hydrogen atoms as well, because in each water molecule there's 2 hydrogen atoms. So 2 lots of 2 hydrogen atoms gives us 4. How many hydrogen atoms do we have on the left hand side? H2 tells us that we've got 2. So what is the commonality between 2 and 4? So if you do 2 times 2, that equals 4. So because we've already got 2 hydrogen atoms here, if we put a 2 in front of that, that will give us 4 hydrogen atoms, because 2 times 2 equals 4. So now that I think I've balanced this chemical equation, then we can fill in this table. So the reactant types, there's the hydrogen and the oxygen. That occurs on both the product and the reactant side, like so. And now let's count the number of each type of atom. So for hydrogen, we've got 2 lots of 2 hydrogen atoms, which equals 4. We've got O2, telling us that there's 2 oxygen atoms. And in water, the 2 out the front here will be times by both atom types. So for hydrogen, 2 times 2 hydrogen atoms, which equals 4. And for oxygen, 2 times 1 oxygen atom, which equals 2. So is the equation balanced? Have I got it correct? The answer is yes, because we've got the same number of oxygen and hydrogens on both sides of the chemical equation. Okay, so now we've got a couple of different variations of these balancing chemical equations questions here. So this time, out of A, B, and C, you need to choose the correct coefficients. So probably the best way to do this is just to try each one until you can get the correct answer. Alternatively, you can just use the method I've already shown you in trying to work out which one, how it actually balances, and then you can match that to either option A, B, or C. So you can do it either way. I suppose the more correct way to do it would be to actually try and balance it yourself and then see which option that matches to. So you can try it either way. So again, please pause the recording and try and see whether the coefficients that balance these equations match A, B, or C. Okay, so for the one on the left-hand side here, you can see that there's more nitrogen atoms on the left than there are on the right, and more hydrogen atoms on the right than there are on the left. So plenty of problems here. So let's start by trying to increase the number of nitrogen atoms on the right-hand side here. So let's put a 2 there to do that. So now we've got 2 nitrogen atoms corresponding to the 2 on this side, but we've also increased the number of hydrogens because there's 3 hydrogens in each of these NH3 molecules. So 2 times 3 hydrogens gives us 6 hydrogens. So is there any way for us to get 6 hydrogens on the left-hand side here? Well, we've already got 2, and we know that 3 times 2 is 6. So if we put a 3 out the front of our hydrogen here, then in theory that will give us 6 hydrogens. So if you wanted to check this, we could do our table. So on the reactant side here, we've got our nitrogens and hydrogens. We can count those, and same for the product side. So let's do that now. So nitrogen, there's 2 there. For hydrogen, we've got 3 times 2, which is 6. And for the ammonia molecule on the right-hand side here, we've got 2 times 1 nitrogen atom, which gives us 2. And for the hydrogens, it's 2 times 3, which gives us 6. So that is a match. So that corresponds to option B here, where the first coefficient we would insert would be a 1. We don't usually draw the 1, but in this case we're showing it. And then the second one is a 3, and then the third coefficient is a 2. Okay, let's try and apply a similar method to work out the second one here. Alright, so we've got only 1 magnesium on this side, 3 on this side, and the nitrogens are the same. So let's focus on the magnesiums. So if we've got 3 magnesiums on this side, then we may need 3 on this side. So by doing that, I think we might have balanced the equation. So we can check that by counting the number of each atom type on each side. So we get our magnesium and our nitrogen like so. So for Mg, we've got 3 lots of 1 Mg, which is 3. And for nitrogen, N2 corresponds to 2 nitrogen atoms. On this side, we've got a molecule that contains 3 magnesiums, as shown by the 3 after the Mg, and 2 nitrogens, with the 2 after the nitrogen. So we actually only needed to change one of the coefficients in this case, and coefficient of nitrogen and the Mg3N2 stay the same, which corresponds to option C here. Okay, so it's all very well and good being able to interpret chemical reactions, but we also need to be able to explain what's actually happening in a chemical reaction. So the process of how a chemical reaction occurs, what are the steps, and what's actually happening. So we explore these ideas in this Participation Plus question. So it'll be really good for your understanding of what we've done so far if you're able to have a go at these three-tiered questions here, and also to share your answers with your peers can be very valuable. So give that a go. We've also got some questions to have a go at now, which are the revision questions. So remember, you can access these via the LMS under the revision quiz for today. So we've covered the content for questions 1 to 4. So have a go at those as well. Okay, so to summarize part 1, we looked at the difference between chemical and physical change. So the chemical change is what occurs during a chemical reaction, where the substance you start off with, the reactants, changes into a new substance, which we call the product or products. Whereas the physical change, the substance doesn't change in terms of its identity, but the physical state can change. So for example, solid ice can be turned into liquid water. But with the physical change, there's no new substances being created. We then saw that chemical equations are used to represent chemical reactions, where the components on the left of the equation are called the reactants, and they can be converted to the products on the right-hand side, as shown by an arrow in the direction that the reaction proceeds. And we also know that atoms cannot be created or destroyed in a chemical reaction. So that means that we have to have balanced chemical equations, where each atom type has the same number of atoms on the reactant and on the product side. And most recently, we've been looking at balancing chemical equations. Basically, making sure that we don't have any atoms being created or destroyed, meaning each of the product and reactant side will have the same number of each different type of atom present. And I showed you the method for balancing the chemical equations. Firstly, to work out whether it's balanced by counting the number of each atom type on each side. And if it's not balanced, then changing the coefficients, which is basically equivalent to changing the number of each molecule present, or to actually try and get it to balance so you have the same number of each type of atom present on the reactant and product side. And remember, after you've adjusted your coefficients, you can check this by counting the number of atoms on each side and seeing whether they are the same and they balance. So remember, it's very important that when you're doing your balancing chemical equations that you're only changing coefficients, never change subscript. Because if you change the subscript, you're changing what is actually reacting in the reaction, and you may not actually be representing a real chemical reaction, and even if you are, it's a different chemical reaction from the one you were asked to balance.